Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we have a very active setup over the next 7 days. Started off today with a slight risk for severe weather across portions of Arkansas, through southeastern Missouri, all the way up and through Illinois and Indiana. And some of those could be tornadic as well, with a 5% chance of an isolated tornado in this afternoon into the early evening time frame. But that risk just continues with another short wave coming in through the Texas Panhandle tomorrow, with an enhanced risk for severe weather across the Texas Panhandle. And some of those could be very large hail producers of that 2-inch diameter or bigger hailstones. And then that same risk just continues going to the day on Monday, with yet another chance of an enhanced risk for severe weather across the Texas Panhandle, through Oklahoma, all the way through Kansas and Missouri. And that risk just continues with another system coming through on Wednesday for North Texas and Oklahoma, and yet another system coming in for Texas and Oklahoma through Arkansas. That's coming up on Thursday, May the 5th. So man, you can definitely see we have a very active pattern ahead. Welcome back everyone. How's it going? If you're new to the channel out there, click the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. Let's start off with taking a look at the overall setup for the next 48 hours or so. You can actually follow along on the top left-hand corner of the screen. This is the latest update from the high resolution guidance. So this is around noontime. We do have some shower activity in and around portions of Washington and Oregon, with another developing trough that's going to be moving in off the Pacific Northwest. We also have some instability around that surface low into portions of South Dakota, and then of course portions of Minnesota, all the way through Wisconsin this morning. But we are watching a cold front along this boundary that kicked off all the severe weather last night ahead of that low level jet. But as we move kind of through time, we can stop the clock right here about 5-6 o'clock. I do feel showers and thunderstorms are going to be exploding right along this boundary, and that's why the Storm Prediction Center does in fact have that slight risk for severe weather into portions of Illinois and Indiana, and that'll fishtail all the way down into portions of southeastern Missouri, going in through Arkansas. As we walk you through time, you can see how that instability really starts to explode as we get into the evening hours. That'll be moving all the way through into portions of Indiana, extending to portions of western Kentucky here, into portions of western Tennessee. That tails all the way down into Arkansas, where that cold front will more or less stall out here into central Texas. And as we walk you through time, you can see that cold front will continue to slide across into the east, kind of losing its instability in its wake. So by the time we wake up tomorrow morning on Sunday, you're May the 1st, that instability will be over portions of West Virginia now, over through portions of western Pennsylvania, with all that rain and instability as it continues to push off to the east. But as we go through the daytime on Sunday, man, we have another severe setup. That's why they have that enhanced risk for severe weather, as we start to see numerous thunderstorms start to explode off the dry line. And a lot of these could be supercells that would create that large hail potential. We saw a lot of that last night in Kansas. So I appreciate all you guys watching my live feed out there to keep you ahead of the storm. But man, it's just a very active setup over the next several days. So by the time we get into your Sunday evening time frame, yeah, things are going to be exploding into portions of western Panhandle and to portions of the western Kansas here. And as we walk you through time, as we kind of zoom into that bullseye, as going into your 2 o'clock in the morning time frame, a lot of the energy does in fact go towards the Oklahoma area, into the Oklahoma City area. We could get a southern piece as well, trying to sneak into portions of North Texas, but mainly the heavier setup will be along the Red River, with all that instability in back here into portions of Denver, as well as Salt Lake City. But there's that cold front extending all the way through off the East Coast here, with some rain showers into portions of North Carolina, getting into Richmond, and that'll be moving off the coast as we get into your early morning hours on the day on Monday. and we can stop the clock right there because that's where the time frame ends on the HRRR model. So let's take a look at the overall setup at the jet stream. So this kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at as far as kind of these surface lows with this very active setup over the next, say, 7 to 10 days. A lot of the colder air is going to be bottled up well to the north. So let me just kind of walk you through time. You can see all the brown shaded areas here. That is your warm sector. So that's why the southern regions are going to be in that kind of bullseye for these severe weather setups as we go for the next week or so with these troughs, just one after another. It's going to be relentless coming in off the Pacific Northwest, bring in some rain showers and then we get these little surface lows develop on the southern side. And that's going to be creating these little short waves as we come in. There's the day on Monday as these kind of dip down, as the jet stream dips, it'll tap into some of that warm sector along the dry line, creating all the instability with the more severe weather chances. But yeah, things really do start to get active as this trough really starts to separate as we get into your Wednesday timeframe. That's why they have more severe weather over portions of Texas getting into Oklahoma, because yet we have another surface low that's going to be going in through the Four Corners regions. That's going to be diving into that warm sector, and it's going to be taking its sweet time as well. So that's why we could be looking at rounds and rounds of severe weather just kind of hanging out, and it really doesn't go anywhere for Wednesday into Thursday. There's into Friday across the Central Plains. So that just gives you a bullseye for kind of day after day of rounds of instability across the central US. Will slowly meander and slowly pull through with that another surface low building back into portions of Texas. That's probably going to bring more rounds of precipitation and another round of possibly severe weather going into your Saturday timeframe. But then that surface trough will be extending all the way up to the East Coast as we take you through your Mother's Day time frame. But let's walk through the CAPE values, because man, some of these CAPE values are pretty impressive with a lot of instability. You know, typically May is one of your stormiest months of the year, but it's also some of your wettest months of the year. And with these troughs that are going to be coming in one after another, that is just unfortunately going to be setting the stage for rounds and rounds of severe weather in parts of the country. It's going to be one of those things that we're going to have to kind of take it day by day, because what happens today could influence the storm's development tomorrow with these cold fronts, these warm fronts sagging through. They leave outflow boundaries in its wake. So it's one of those things in May with a very active setup with relentless amount of systems coming in one after another. This setup could influence what could be taking place prior to the event. But there's going to be a lot of instability in the atmosphere. There is no question. So let me walk you through some of these CAPE values. This stands for your convective available potential energy. Typically, you need about 1,000 JKGs to create a severe weather, a severe thunderstorm out there. And as we walk you through time on Sunday, you can see these CAPE values are starting to get pretty high. I mean, you're starting to get into your 1 and 2,000 range. But as we walk you through time on Monday, there's the dry line, and that's where I think a lot of the supercell thunderstorms are going to be starting to explode on Sunday going into Monday. And this just really intensifies. There's not much to pull these through. In the month of May, you get these cold fronts that just doesn't always obviously pull all the way through to the Gulf Coast and kind of clear the atmosphere out. They're only going to be able to go that much far south, and they back up as a warm front. And so you still have a lot of the instability for much of the week remains in place because you have these cold fronts backing up as warm fronts. So yes, by the time we get into your Tuesday and kind of midweek time frame, some of these CAPE values are upwards to 2,000 and 3,000. So that's about 3,000 what you would need to produce a normal thunderstorm out there. So the instability is going to be crazy high, and it gets really almost scary as we get into your going to the 4th and 5th, and it really starts to kind of explode as we get into your 6th and maybe 7th time frame. Some of these values are upwards to 5,000 now. So that's getting to almost extreme values. You start seeing CAPE values like that, depending on other dynamics in the atmosphere, if there's a cap in place or things like that, we could be looking at towering thunderstorms all the way up to 50,000 feet or so, up even higher than that. We actually saw some of that last night in Kansas, and that's why places like an Enterprise had that 4-inch hail, and unfortunately they had 2 big tornadoes as well up there with that extreme heights on these storms. And with those heights like that, we could be looking at hailstones falling upwards to 100 miles an hour, and you got to have pretty significant updrafts to have something like that, winds of at least 100-mile-per-hour updrafts. The biggest hailstone of all time was in Vivian, South Dakota. At the time, they had about 150-mile-per-hour updrafts. So that just gives you an idea. The higher the updrafts, the higher the is going to be able to get up in the atmosphere and have that kind of tumble dryer continue to lift that hailstone. And finally, the weight of the hailstone will fall to the surface. But before that, we could be looking at some pretty big, massive hail. And yeah, I stopped the clock right here going into your Sunday. I know this is a long ways out, but you start seeing CAPE values like this over 5,000, 5,600. That's pretty extreme. I mean, that's about as high as you get, and it remains that way into Sunday afternoon, going into your Monday across Texas and Oklahoma. So pretty concerning to see CAPE values that high for really kind of an extended period of time. So it's definitely going to be active, no question about it, over the next 7 to 10 days. And we can take a look at these little vortices are going to be coming across, and I can put this in motion. As we can see, wave after wave going to be coming across through the plains. That moves out, and that another system comes in through Wednesday, going into Thursday. You can see it's pretty slow movers. So that's why it's going to be creating all that instability in the atmosphere with these little troughs. It's going to be digging in one after another. With the jet stream well to the north, you've got all that cooler air going to be bottled up to the north, and you got all that warmer air going to be sitting to the south. And these dew points are upwards going to be in the mid 60s, even 70s. At times it's going to be upwards to approaching 75-degree dew points. So that's a lot of moisture going to be in the atmosphere, going to be tapping into these little short waves, these little troughs. They're going to be coming across, especially the one by midweek. It doesn't seem to move very fast anytime soon. So once Wednesday sets up, we could be looking at rounds and rounds of daily elevated rain and elevated severe threat across Texas, across Oklahoma, across the plains here, as it just looks to be kind of a very active setup over the next 7 to 10 days. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.